Now, we've talked a little bit about ideation, coming up with ideas, and you've been able to speak with people about your LEAP to learn a little bit more. So now what we want to do is look at all of those research insights that you gathered and pick 2 of them to take action on. So on your LEAP map, you'll see there's a space where you can put in your top 2 research insights. And what we want to do next is to build a prototype to take one of those insights and put it into action. So when we talk about a prototype, it's basically a way for us to test an idea, to put something into action. Now there's a lot of ways that we can build prototypes, and I want to share some of those examples with you. So one of my favorite examples is this video that I'll have you watch from Sesame Street. So Sesame Street wanted to create an app of Dancing Elmo. So this was, a few years ago when Dancing Elmo was a big thing. And as you can see in the videos you'll watch, Dancing Elmo it's showing the features. When you touch it, it'll do different dances, it'll do different moves. But the big reveal will, as you watch, will show you that it's actually not an app, right? It's actually the Sesame Street team holding up a piece of cardboard that looks like an iPhone with a person actually dancing behind the cardboard. So what this gives us an example of is how we can very easily build tests to figure out if our ideas or insights, the things we want to do, will actually work. Now in the entrepreneurship world, a lot of times we call this a minimum viable product, an MVP. So an MVP is just a way to test your idea, to get feedback. If you ask your mom or your friends, will you buy this thing? They'll say, yeah, I probably would. But if you actually put up the pre-order form on a web page with a picture of what the thing is, then you're going to get the real feedback, right? You're actually seeing what people do instead of what they say they will do. So what we want to do is create ways that you can get feedback without spending the time and money on building it. Because if I spend all this time and money building this Dancing Elmo app and nobody likes it, I just wasted all of that time and money, right? If I have an idea to make my podcast, instead of taking all the time to record an interview, edit it, upload it, what if I first outline it and show someone the outline and see if they would be interested? So let me share a few examples of interesting prototypes that might spark your imagination. So one of my favorite examples is a BMX biker. So this BMX biker here, he likes to do crazy tricks, right? And BMX biking, doing tricks is not something that you just go do. You need to figure out a way to test it, right? So you can see what he built. He actually built something that looks exactly like a bike, but he would just jump into a big mat, right? So he could try to do the tricks and fall down without any problem, but it's a way for him to prototype, to test his idea. So if you're trying to do something physical, you're trying to do a new activity, maybe you're trying to learn Spanish, right? What's the way that you could test if that works? Another one of my favorite ways to build a prototype is actually just with sticky notes. A lot of times we have ideas for something digital. We want to build an app or a website. Takes some time, takes some money. Even when you use the no-code tools, it takes a little bit more effort. But what we can do is just use sticky notes. We can make a sticky note for what we think the homepage would be, right? Then we can draw another sticky note for what the next screen would be. And then we can just show it to people and say, where would you press on the app, right? And we can draw whatever we would have on each screen of the app for them to know. We could build that virtually where they actually click on slides. So you build PowerPoint slides for each part of the app. So there's different ways to build prototypes like that. Another interesting example is this team that was working on MRIs. They noticed that children were much more sedated. They had to get medicine to go into these big kind of scary machines. After talking to the students, kind of using that empathy, talking to the kids, I should say, they learned that kids like to pretend. And so what they did is, let's try to imagine that this MRI machine is a submarine instead of a machine, right? So they created an entire space. The entire MRI room looked like it was underwater, and they could tell these kids this story. And by doing that, they had this thought that maybe that would lower sedation rates, right? So with a few stickers, a little bit of paint, they're able to test this idea and actually prove that it works. So it was a prototype without having to build the final thing. Another great example is using tape to mark off the space of a physical location. So if you've ever thought about redoing your bathroom or your kitchen or building a house, you can actually design it first on the ground, right? Use tape to put where the walls would be, where the doors would be, and you can actually walk through that space to see if it feels like it's a good size. So these are all just examples of what a prototype is. It's a free, cheap easy way to test an idea, to get feedback on that idea. So what you're going to do in this exercise is look at your top 2 research insights, and we're going to build a prototype ideation. So essentially, we want you to come up with as many ideas for ways you could test that insight as possible, and then we're going to have you pick your favorite one. So why don't we go now to our LEAP map? You can come up with as many prototype ideas as you can, and then choose your favorite one that we're going to work on in the remainder of this unit.